Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back. Been away for a little while and it feels pretty nice to be back in my chair, getting set up for a little Stitch with me, little video, little visit. Just gonna attach my thread here and we'll be off to the races. So it is Friday, March 22nd, and this is the second last Friday of the month. We've got one more. So I do plan to work on a different project next Friday, just so in case you're getting a little tired of this project here, you'll see something different coming up next week. Now, make sure I'm starting in the right place here, and we're good to go. Okay, so if you don't know, if this is the first time you're joining me here for a Friday Stitch with Me video, this is the piece I've been working on the last couple of weeks. It's a Glendon Place design called Tiramisu. That's what it's gonna look like when all of the stitching is done and all of the beads are attached. Now, one thing you may notice about mine, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, maybe you've already noticed this, but I haven't really made a point of pointing it out. But if you have noticed and you've wondered, you may notice that my circles look a little stretched. And that is because this fabric is I do find it quite stretchy. And in order for me to have the tension that I like, and I'm not overly fastidious about having it drum tight, but I do like a certain amount of tightness. I find this fabric is very, very stretchy. And so I have to be careful not to overstretch it because I don't want that to affect the tension of the stitches too much. But I'm very confident that once I try to loosen it when I'm done my stitching. So I try not to leave it tight, but I am stitching with the fabric stretched. So there is going to be, there could be potential pulling. So when it is framed, obviously the sides will be pulled as well. So I'm pretty confident that once this piece is laced, it will be, these circles will be more round than they are now. Let me show you, because it's really quite remarkable how stretchy this is. This is a Picture This Plus 28 count hand dyed fabric, and in the sand colorway, I believe. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten the bottom rod of my scroll frame here, and you just watch how much more I can actually stretch this. So if you can see that, you can see that I'm really pulling this. This is coming down even further. So that would be nice tight tension to stitch on. However, I'm a little concerned that so I'm going to loosen it back up just a little bit now. I'm concerned that if I keep it that tight to stitch on the whole time, I really don't want my stitching to be terribly distorted and difficult to lace and frame. I'd like it to be as round as possible. So once this is stretched out, that will be round instead of oval. Anyway, so yeah, welcome back. We had a wonderful March break. We had a fantastic March break. So much fun. Managed to get away with the kids. We went somewhere warm. It was sunny all the time. Very different from our weather here in Canada at the moment, which is pretty gray. But you know what? If you've hung out with me long enough, you'll know that I'm a really big fan of winter and snow. And so I always kind of like March break's a nice break in the middle of, Christmas and summer. You know you're halfway through when you get to March break. Now, I believe in the States, I believe you call it spring break. In Canada, we tend to call it March break. That's just what we call it. The kids get a week off school, and lots of people go somewhere on vacation, or they stay at home. If they, not everybody's lucky enough to be able to take a week of vacation off of work. So both my husband and myself, being self-employed, were able to take that time. So we had a great time. Kids had a fantastic time, and we, hung out, we played cards, we, played board games, and just, had a really fun family time. So now it's time to get back into the swing of things. Second half of March always seems to fly by. And, John and I were talking together this morning. We, every Friday morning, we take an hour, first thing Friday morning, and we go out to breakfast, just the two of us. And that is that's our date time, because there's a diner down the street. They serve a very inexpensive morning breakfast during the week. So it's just a chance for us to, and the food is, it's okay. It's not going to win any awards or anything, but it's more a chance for us to actually sit down and talk to each other, because we are both so busy. Sometimes, it's just nice to sit down and catch your breath and remember why you like the person sitting across the table from you. So we were talking this morning at breakfast about all of the things coming up in our calendar in the months ahead, and looking to opening the cottage back up for the summer season, and my plans for moving the sewing studio. Oops, I missed one right there. So you know what, I'm just gonna add it in. I'm going to add it in and carry on. Then there's one more over there, and then I'll just hop around a little bit here. So not ideal, but if I have any chance of completing the stitching on this by the time Ginger Gerald is done Henry, that's my goal anyways. If you haven't heard me talk about that before, I'd like to finish the stitching on this large piece by the time Ginger Gerald has completed the stitching on his Henry. So I hope Gerald slows down a little bit, because I think I can do it if it's June. I think I can make it till June. We'll see. Where was I before that? I was talking about opening up the cottage and looking at our calendar, and just, how fast things are moving. Time is flying. And I know we all feel the same way. We all wish we had more time and that it would slow down a little bit. But before you know it, I'll be back at the cottage. I live there in the summer for it's about 2.5 months, because the kids do, they are in school here in the city where we live in Ontario, London, Ontario. They are in school here. And then in the summertime, I live up there with, up until, a few years ago with both kids. But then, as Sarah got older and more interested in hanging out with her friends in the summer and, working, and she did some online schoolwork last summer, she's been spending more time in London during the summer with her dad, because, John can't take the summer off from his work. He has to remain here in London. So we sort of, go back and forth. Our family works a little bit more, what's the word? When things are a little unusual. It's a little unusual, our family situation in the summer, but it works really well for us. And I move my business up there for the summer. So the colors in this piece are so beautiful. I love them so much. This is a Dinky Dye silk that I'm using for this design. The color that I'm using right now is called Chestnut. It's just a beautiful color. They're really lovely to work with. And I'm hoping to complete today. I would really like to get this circle complete. That's the plan anyways. We'll see. I have a lot of other things I'd like to do today as well, including, get some work done. So, but maybe tonight I was going to, for the Friday stitch in tonight. This is, if you're new, I seem to say that a lot if you're new around here, but keep in mind that we do always have new people joining us. So, if you're old, then bear with me. We have a Facebook group called Friday Off the Grid, and we tend to hang out there mostly on the weekends, starting on Friday, because we have people from all over the world who are in this Facebook group. And the sort of premise is that you take 6 hours of your time. It can be 6 hours whenever you want, but really, I kind of started at 6 p.m. your time, because that's when most everybody is sort of, winding down from their day, and maybe you can convince someone else in your household to take care of dinner, or if you only have yourself to worry about, well, then you can start your stitching time whenever works for you. But 6 hours of time dedicated to working on your WIP. And then on the Facebook group, you can share sort of, before and after photos of your time. And you can hang out with other stitchers from all over the world who are stitching at the same time as you. Let me just check my counting here. 6, 6, and then there's going to be one more row down here. I also have some knitting that I would really like to complete this weekend. There is a shawl that I've been working on knitting since when did I start it? I think I began it on my birthday a year and a half ago. So about a year and a half ago, I started this shawl. It was a pattern written by a friend of mine, a designer who's in the Netherlands. Her name is Josh, and she's such a lovely lady. She does not have a YouTube channel, or I think she might have a blog, but I mostly keep in touch with her through Instagram. So she is in the Netherlands. She's a knitwear designer. She does not stitch, but she does have some really lovely knitting patterns. So her name is Josh Mole, and I will try to remember to put a link to her website and her Instagram page below. She's a lovely lady. And she gifted me with the pattern for this shawl for my birthday a year and a half ago. I immediately cast it on, and I have one row left to do, and it's the bind off row. I have knit the entire shawl, and I just have to cast off. Now, it's almost 500 stitches long, the cast off. So it's going to require a little bit of time and a large cup of coffee. And so my goal this weekend is maybe Saturday, I will cast that shawl off. But tonight, Friday night, is for stitching. Other than that, I'll be doing some more sewing this weekend, and maybe finish up a sock that I have just the toe left to complete. And maybe some canvas work as well. And I might even get myself on the treadmill. I can't sit all weekend long. I think I have to do a little bit of activity as well. Okay, I know I have a couple of questions from the comment section from the last Friday video that I did, and I will get to those in a little bit. There was just three other things, pardon me, that I wanted to talk about first before I get to those few, and there's only a few, so it won't take long but I wanted to make sure that I answered them. So 3 things that I wanted to discuss. The first one was, in case you haven't heard, if you're a member of the Friday Off the Grid Facebook group or other Facebook groups that include stitchers, any of the stitching Facebook groups that Michelle Garrett belongs to, Bendy Stitchy, you may have heard by now that Michelle accidentally, and get ready for this because it's quite big, she accidentally deleted her YouTube channel. So let that sink in for a minute. Michelle had so many videos on her channel. She had a lot of time and love and work, and it's, as far as I don't know all the details, but all I know is that it is gone, and she has had to restart. She does have, her new channel is up. It was either as of, when was it? What's today? Friday? I think it happened on Wednesday. So she has a new channel up, and I'm going to make sure that I include a link in my drop down box below in case you didn't know what had happened or you've been looking for her videos and you can't find her. That is what happened. I'll make sure I put a link to her channel in the drop down box below. So if you were a subscriber of hers before, I know she'd appreciate if you just hit that subscribe button again, and let's help her rebuild her channel again. So that was the first thing. The second and third thing are both actually little public service announcements or helpmates that have 2 things that have come to my attention and kind of reminded me, of their, oh yes, that's really important. I need to, remember to do that first of all, but more so that it's information I've known for a while, but that if you didn't know about it, you'd have to hear it from someone. Okay. So the first one is, and I'm doing a terrible job of introducing this, aren't I? And I think I've miscounted here. So let's just see what I've done. 2 and 2. And so what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 2 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 2 and 2. And then this one is going to be 1 less. Okay. All right. So the first thing has to do with something that Abby Bella Stitcher, she, another lovely floss tuber, and all around nice person, she posted on the Facebook group a little reminder about magnifiers. If you use a light with a magnifier on it, it's really, really important that you cover up that magnifier when you're not using it, especially if your magnifier sits in a room that has windows or skylights, because they are a fire hazard. And I can't stress how important this is. And I have firsthand experience with this. I almost burnt our house down with my magnifier. So having Abby Bella post that the other day was a really good reminder to me that perhaps I should mention this, because before the little story that I'm going to tell you, before this happened, it never even crossed my mind. It should have, but it never did. And so I think it's something that's really easy to just not even think about, and you can accidentally really end up in big trouble with magnifiers. So because, fire hazard. Where I stitch up here, where my light is, we have skylights, and we were about to leave the house for a weekend. My house sitter was due to arrive later that night, but she had a key and we were going to be gone. And I had forgotten something upstairs. So I went back upstairs to grab what, and whatever it was that I'd forgotten upstairs. And I walked into my bedroom and I smelled smoke, like something was burning. And I couldn't tell, it was a strange smell. I couldn't tell what was burning. I couldn't tell if it was an electrical burning smell or, what the heck was going on, because I couldn't see any smoke. I couldn't see anything, but I knew that, that smell, that smell. And so I just started hunting, and it turns out that my magnifier, the sun had hit the angle of the magnifier just right through the skylight and had trained it on a blanket that I was knitting for my daughter. And that blanket was sitting on my bedside table, and the magnifier was trained on it, and it actually burnt a hole in the blanket that I was knitting. And by the time I found it, it was smoldering. Even though I couldn't see any smoke, I wasn't looking in the right place because it was a small hole. It wasn't a lot of smoke, but it was just starting to smolder. And if I hadn't gone upstairs, if I hadn't found it, we were about to leave. We would have left the house. The house, I am sure, we would have had a fire. Unquestionably, we would have had a fire. So it's not something that's uncommon. This is a very simple way to start a fire. It happens faster than you can blink. And so every time I now have, and of course, you can be a little fancier than me. I bought a sheet set a couple of years ago, and it came in one of these extra fabric bags. I stick this over my magnifier. It just pulls right over top of my magnifier every single time after I'm done stitching. Even if it's gray outside, even if there's no sun in the forecast, it's got to be a habit. Every time after I'm done stitching, I just cover it up every single time. So just a little, heads up out there. If you've never thought about it, if it's never crossed your mind, it is a potential danger. So as stitchers, I think, we've got a responsibility to pass that information on, just in case there's anyone out there who's, it just hasn't crossed their mind, which it's highly possible. So I hope you cover up your magnifiers. So that was the first one. The second one, and this is also a discussion that came up on the Facebook group a number of months ago, and I meant to talk about it, but then I, of course, didn't make myself a note and promptly forgot to mention it. And so it came back again in my Facebook feed this morning from a different group, actually. Let me just check where I am. So one less. No, this is not right. This one's got to be two less. Okay, hang on. Let's take this out. Just 3 stitches here to take out. Oopsie. This one has to do with saving your orts. Now, I know one of the questions was about orts, so I'm going to answer that one right now. What are orts and why are they called orts? I have no idea why they're called orts. I do not believe it stands for anything. I just believe that's what they're called. Where the heck did my scissors go? I know I just had them. Like 30 seconds ago I had my scissors, and now they've mysteriously wandered away. So I'm going to have to find those. Anyway, I belong to a wildlife rescue page called Salthaven Wildlife Rescue, something like that. I can't remember their full name, but basically everybody calls them Salthaven. And there's they have a location here near where I live in London. I'm not going to be able to rethread this without chopping it. So let me just finish what I'm saying. Then I'm going to pause this video for a minute. Collecting orts and putting them out for the birds is a really bad idea. we shouldn't do it with anything. No, not even cotton, even if it doesn't have metallic in it, anything like that. Any kind of string, any kind of yarn, or, bit of ort that we have. I don't know why it's called an ort. That's what I was talking about. That's just what it's called. These little end bits that we're, done with our stitching. It's just called an ort. If anyone knows that it actually does stand for something, please let me know, because I have no idea. I've just always called it that, like everybody else. It can get tangled up in baby birds' feet, animals' feet. It can get tangled around their necks. It can, it's just a very dangerous thing for birds to have in their nests. It's not safe. My understanding is that pet hair is okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that, sort of hair, if you're brushing your dog and the fluff kind of collects outside, I believe that that's okay. But please, if that is also a no-no, somebody let me know. Pet hair, as far as I know, is okay. But yarn and these little tiny thin thread bits, they can actually, they can kill the baby birds by getting tangled up in their feet, and it's quite horrendous, actually. So we think we're doing a nice kindness. We think we're doing something, good by collecting them and putting them out for the birds. But actually, in fact, the opposite is true. So don't leave those orts out. Just throw them away, unless you collect them and put them in a Christmas ball. So other than that, those were the 3 things that I had to discuss. And now I have to go and find my scissors. So I'm going to go find my scissors. I'm going to double check all the questions from the last video. I'm going to put a little ad in right here at this point, and I will be back I'll be back in a few seconds, and I'll finish up those questions and hopefully get a few more stitches in. So I'll see you in a minute. I just recorded 10 minutes or so of question and answer chatter, and then just had a complete brain freeze, and got my words all mumbled and mixed up and whatnot. And so I am going to just re-record the stuff that I was just talking about. As you can see, I've also now almost completed this thread, managing to mess up the last stitch. Just fix that and thread in my needle. Okay, here we go. I am always asked what kind of a floor frame I use. So just for those who might be wondering, this is a Mark II floor frame from Hearthside Craftworks in Calgary, Alberta. And I always leave a link at least in all of my Monday Floss Tube videos to that company out in Calgary. I think I might have it on the Friday videos as well. I'll double check there when I'm going in. I know I've got a few other links to add in today, so I'll make sure I do that as well. Okay, so I've checked all of the comments and questions from the last Friday video that I did. There's only a couple, so just to finish up today's video, just a few things to talk about and wrap up. And the first thing is getting back to talking about orts again. I had 2 comments and questions from Cheryl and Sharon, both wanting to know a little bit more about orts. And no, hang on a sec. My husband is texting me. He wants to know something about pistachio. He's at the grocery store, so I'm grateful he's shopping. Very grateful he's shopping. But it's hard to answer him. I think he wants to know if I want pistachios in the shells or unshelled. Not in the shell. And because I was not thinking and I hit the button quite quickly, I just said thanks. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of pistachios show up. Anyway, holy Delito. Back to orts. Cheryl wanted to know whether I was saying ort or orc, and it is definitely ort with a T. And as I said before, I don't think that that stands for anything in particular, but please, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. Oh, the silk is like, just like butter. So nice. It's a bit slippery, so I'm a little uneven here. So I'm just gonna, I am one of those people that I'm a little bit fussy about my back, not because I'm ever going to enter it in a show or anything, but I want the front of it to look as good as possible. And when your back looks good, you know, threads don't show through the front and all that kind of jazz. And it also frames more nicely because there's not a lot of extra lumps and bumps on the back from knots. So whenever I have a little extra thread hanging out and I know it's secure, I know it's tight and ready to go, I'll usually just take my scissors and very carefully tidy it up so that I don't snip any of my back threads back there, because they're fixable, but it's a bit tedious to do. So anyways, I am considering doing a little video just on tips and tricks about other ways to work on keeping your back neat and tidy. If you guys are interested in that, I don't know, let me know in the comments below. Again, these are just things that I do without even really thinking about it. So I'll have to take some time and make some notes and think about what I do. Anyways, I am ready to go. I am attached, ready to start a new length of floss. So Sharon, was it Sharon or Cheryl? I think it might have been Cheryl. In fact, she only just asked me this question recently, even though the video came out a couple weeks ago. That's always also important for me to remember, that not everybody's going to watch this video as soon as I put it up. So I like to go back and see whether I've missed anything, comments or questions, before I record the next video, so that it gives everybody a chance to ask their questions. Doesn't matter when you watch it. Cheryl would like to know about the needle I'm using. She's curious to know whether I'm using a 28 ballpoint needle. I talked about ballpoint needles a little bit last summer when I was contacted by a fellow Canadian out in, I think she's in Calgary. I think. I could be very wrong about that. I've completely forgotten her first name, but I know the name of her business is called Polka Dot Stitchery. Polka Dot Stitchery. And you can find her on Facebook. She has a Facebook sales page. And she sells ballpoint needles here in Canada. So she sells through her Facebook group. You just have to join the group, and then she is wonderful. She's very responsive at getting back to you if you leave a comment or question on the Facebook group or message her privately. I know that a lot of people who have used her business to purchase their ballpoint needles, they've been very, very happy. I've tried a couple of them. I used a couple of them last summer. She sent a few for me to try, and I really quite enjoyed it. So I left mine at the cottage by accident, and so I have not gotten into the habit. I haven't been using them. I suspect I would probably really enjoy using a ballpoint needle on this fabric. I think that would be really quite nice, actually. So I hope that answered your question, Cheryl. I'm afraid I don't know her first name, but again, if you just search up Polka Dot Stitchery on Facebook, you can join her group and then find out more information about her sales, especially knowing Canadian resources for those of us who do live up here in Canada. Sometimes it's a little trickier for us to find Canadian sellers who sell our beloved needle products that can be a little hard to find. Okay, so I should probably double check what I'm doing here. So this one's going to have, we had the one with 3 more. This one's going to have 4 more off the end. Okay, so next up is the ever-present Kyle from Stitching in Sound, who leaves me a comment and question every week. And he, first of all, I'll get to his question, and then he had something interesting in his comments. I'll talk about that after. His question of the week was, what fabric do I gravitate towards? What count? I'm assuming what type, what count, everything, I suppose. He says he prefers stitching on 32 count. That tends to be the fabric that he gravitates towards. And he guessed that I would probably say 40 count. And I have to say that he is correct. I do tend towards the smaller count fabrics. I love 40 count. I love stitching one thread over two on 40 count. I think that that's probably my favorite. But you know what? This is 2 threads over 2 on 28 count, and I can't say that I hate it. I have to say that I love this too. You know, it's stitching. I love it all. So I may have a slight preference for 40 count fabric, but you know, my landmark tapestries are stitched on 16 count Aida, which I love. I love working on those projects on that 16 count Aida. It's just so fun. I'm working on Mill Hill bead kit on perforated paper. That's really cool. So, you know, just give me a needle and thread and something to stitch it on and into, and I'm a pretty happy girl. So thank you, Kyle. Thanks for the question. Now, both Kyle and Alice in Stitches and Kyle both had a great comment in the message that they left to me on the last video about this design. Last episode, we had a viewer ask, she was interested in stitching this design on a 32 count fabric 1/1. I believe it was 32. It was either 28 or 32 count fabric 1/1, which obviously is going to make it beautifully teeny tiny and delicate. And I had talked about how, you know, that would be, of course, you know, why wouldn't you do that? But the only problem being that you wouldn't be able to use beads. And both Kyle and Alice in Stitches suggested using metallic floss in place of those beads, which of course makes perfect sense. So I thought that was a great idea. And I thought if you missed those comments, you might appreciate always just, you know, hearing new ideas and thinking of different ways to work around little things to make them, you know, to make the project your own, to change up a designer's work and make it something that you love, that is both the combination of what the designer intended and what is the way you want to stitch it and make it your own. That's all pretty fantastic. Okay, I only have one final question. And before I get to that, I am going to, yeah, you see the next line down goes way over, and I'm on this end of my stitching. So I'm actually going to, here's another thing that I do. Because I am a cross completer, I don't tend to do one leg at a time, especially with a silk or cotton that is very slightly variegated. And you can see it's not wildly variegated, but it's a hand dye, so there is going to be some variety in the color. I know this color here probably has it. I'm not sure the camera's picking it up, but this floss is the same as this floss, which you can see there's some really slight color variations up in through there. I am never going to do one cross at a time, one leg at a time, unless it's just like one leg and then two stitches. I might do it for 2 stitches, but I'm not going to do it for more than 2 stitches. So in keeping with keeping my back neat and tidy, because the next length is long and I don't want to start in the middle of the row, I'm going to anchor my floss down in the back so that I don't have a long carried thread, which, you know, is always potential for creating a future knot with something else. another thread. So I've anchored that down in the back now, and now I can start on the left. So yes, it probably used a little more floss. I could have gotten a few extra stitches out of that floss, but this way I don't have to start in the middle of the row. I can start where I want, and everything is neat and tidy. So 1, 2, there we go. And we are off. Okay, so as I put in just a couple more stitches, the last comment and question came from Jemima, who is the rocking stitcher. The rocking stitcher. I always want to say rocking horse. I'm pretty sure it's just the rocking stitcher. And I'm also pretty sure she's got a floss tube channel, which I still haven't checked out. So I need to get on that. She wants to know about skipping the ad. We've talked about adding, floss tube monetization or YouTube monetization, not just floss tube. When you see the ads on the channel, her question is, if I skip the ad, does the creator of the video, the floss tuber, do they make less money? Did I know the answer to that? And I do know the answer to that. The answer is yes. If you let the ad play, the creator of the video does receive slightly more money than if you skip the ad. So, we can ask you to let the ad play, but really, that's your prerogative. If you mute the ad, it doesn't matter. We still get credit for the ad playing. Now, there's, I usually, on any YouTube video that I watch, if there's an ad, because I understand that the creator of the video is getting a bit of money, I usually let it play. Except for when I get like a half an hour ad. Really? A half an hour ad? That's just ridiculous. And I do not know why YouTube does that. I don't know why on earth they would ever. And there's another one. What's that? There's this other ad that I get that's like 15 minutes long, and it's for, is it a Chinese, what is it called? The dancers, the really beautiful, colorful dancers. I did watch it once. I watched it once because I thought it was fascinating, but I don't need to see it more than once. So those really, really long ones, yeah, no one expects you to sit through those really long ones. But if you love the video and you care about any of that malarkey, then yes, letting the ad play, we make, a few extra pennies per view. And that's the answer to that. And that was it. That was it for comments and questions. Thank you so much. I have work to do this afternoon and some paperwork to do this afternoon. And I tell you, I'd rather be sitting here stitching, chatting with you. We're getting our tax information together as well. My husband does our taxes, which I am eternally grateful for. I am eternally grateful for the fact that my husband does our taxes. And so I have to get some stuff ready for him. So, yay. Numbers are not my favorite, but needs must. And he's doing the bulk of the work, so I guess I shouldn't really complain. I'm not complaining. Now, let me check the pattern here. This is where, yeah, you see? This is right where it starts to head directly across. So this is the bottom of the pattern. So I'm going to have to concentrate on my counting here, or I'm bound to be way off. So I think I'm going to leave you there. I am excited to be through dinner tonight, and I'm ready to sit and relax with the family. My father-in-law is back in town. He travels during the winter time, and he is now back in London for the spring and summer and fall. And so we had our first family dinner together last night when when he came over, and that was nice. He tends to eat with us most nights when, not most nights, but my teaching nights. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are the busiest nights of the week for us. And then Thursday through Sunday, he tends to come and share a family meal with us those evenings and, have coffee and a bit of a chat, and then heads off back home again. My mother-in-law passed away in 2015, and they were soulmates, and he misses her. He misses her badly, and so he does get a bit lonely, and so it's nice to know that we can offer a little bit of company and family time together. So that's on the agenda for tonight. So I'm not looking forward to getting through dinner with him. I put that badly, didn't I? I just meant that I'm looking forward to having dinner preparations done when it's time for me to sit down and stitch, because most likely together as a family we'll sit down and have a cup of coffee and a bit more chatting tonight. So, and then my 6 hours will begin in earnest. So I think I might try to work mostly on this piece tonight, because Ginger Gerald, you better watch out. I'm going to have this done. I'm really glad you started that motivation for us to work on our big, large projects and finish them up. Okay, so that's it for me today. Happy Friday, happy weekend. I have some new bags that I'll be popping into the shop over the weekend. If you would like a sneak peek, I'm going to be showing those on Monday FlossTube at the end of that episode. I've got one fabric that I'm doing an 11 by 17 size for an 11 by 17 Q-snap. It's a lovely blue floral with some mustard and some pink, and very pretty, a little bit retro, but so I've got that coming in 11 by 17. I also have a new sort of jungle print that has some tigers and monkeys, and I just listed that today. There's a medium size. I've got a large coming, but I'd like to actually finish the sample before I post the large size in that bag. So that is www.evertote.com in case you are interested. And that's it. Happy Friday, happy stitching, and I'll see you on Monday for Monday FlossTube.